But I can remember going to Mark when doing my book, it was like, everybody keeps asking me about this. You know, did that ever happen? And he said, Sean, he said, do you honestly think that if I was standing there taking my fist, he said, you wouldn't remember?
It was questionable whether Shawn Michaels was going to do the right thing or not. And, you know, who really knows? But I'll just put it this way. If it hadn't have been done the way it was done, it would have been a very, probably been a very long night for Shawn Michaels.
You know, Undertaker, I always thought had a pretty good gauge on what he needed to do next, when it was time to change his look, when it was time to, you know, I've always respected and admired how he's kind of evolved. It wasn't an easy gimmick to pull off.
And they're trying to keep the character relevant for this long. You know, you really have to keep your finger on the pulse of things, because if you don't, you know, what usually happens is before you realize that you're stale, your audience is already...
That is good.
You know, your audience has already moved on.
The Undertaker, what do you think? Number one,
well,
scariest gimmick of all time.
I would say absolutely.
Yeah.
I would start with just the longevity of the character.
Yeah, he may be the longest employee there as far as one of the wrestlers, one of the boys, currently.
Yeah, I mean, you know, he, especially in his younger days.
I will introduce to you now my mystery partner from Doesn't look like he's having a good time. Look at them eyes. We need a little night-night time there, pal.
I don't want to detract from anything he's doing now.
Right, no.
Especially in his younger days.
Hell.
Yeah, for such a big guy and doing that rope walk and all that stuff that, you know, he did.
The Undertaker gimmick was essentially the black to my white. I wanted a character that was pure, unadulterated evil. And I had always been a fan of Mean Mark from when he broke in Dallas, simply because he worked like Don Jardine, the original Spoiler. I loved the way that he worked and moved in the ring. So I thought, man, this guy would be great. So we set up a meeting, and it's the meeting is the day after a pay-per-view, a WCW pay-per-view, where Mark was working with Lex Luger.
He was giving his final instructions right there to Mean Mark. Not that the big guy probably needs many.
Vince saw the match. Mark had a dislocated hip. He's working with Lex Luger.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, you can't discount Teddy Long.
No,
he's got the World Tag Team Championship.
Right,
Match sucked. Vince has no interest. So I got to cancel the meeting. Fast forward a week or two, and they're in the Meadowlands. We get Vince and Mark together. They meet, falls in love with him, and Vince kind of broadly describes my idea to creative services. They send back a bunch of drawings, and one of the things that they send back was the drawing of The Undertaker. Didn't call him The Undertaker. Vince looked at it and said, God damn, it looks like an old-timey Undertaker.
The call was something like this. The phone rings, I pick it up. Hello? Is this The Undertaker? Undertaker. Yeah, this is The Undertaker. Oh, all right then. Hey, can you be up here tomorrow? You know? And next day I was on the plane.
That was Vince?
That was Vince, called me. He had this character, which the original character was based on an old Western, Undertaker.
And his original name was Kane. And then Vince saw the outfit and liked it, and it'll be Kane the Undertaker. And then we eventually dropped Kane, and he simply became the Undertaker.
He was another guy like Jake Roberts and Kane. The look, realizing there's been some inconsistencies here and there, whatever, changes.
Yeah, sure.
But you don't have to have him say a word for his character to come across. Yeah, it's just the visual package carried it so well.
Yeah, well, that's going to go right along. I was going to say, and that's this. I always thought he had the greatest gimmick of all time early on because, first of all, he was really big, tall, strong, had a good body, okay? Mm-hmm. And it could obviously work because he had worked, and out in Texas and he worked in WCW and things like that. So that wasn't an issue. But what I said was this. He had the greatest character because, first of all, he didn't take any bumps. And if he did, it was one bump. And, of course, this is early on what I'm talking about. And in his interviews, he never had to talk. So all I had to do was go out there and perform and, do the rope, he'd do the chop, do whatever. And then when he did sell, he'd go down and take the one bump, whatever it was, and then set up and kind of no sell. When he came up, the dead man, boom, he rose up. That's scary. Like, so you know there's a ring, but in your mind, you're like, he's popping out of a fucking coffin. The dead man has risen, you're like, oh shit, that's scary. And then he finishes him off with the tombstone or what have you. So, I always thought that was really good. Of course, it showed later on when he had those matches with, Mankind, who could have possibly made our list, I guess. We had talked to, you had sent me a little message about that. Hell, he was athletic, getting on top of them cages and just everything he done, man. He just diving outside the ring, 6'11", 10, whatever it is, diving outside the ring and shit like that. Man, it's incredible. That's why, we had him coming in at #1, man.
Rest in peace.
Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update.